Amazon is done with Jennifer Salke. So what does that mean? Well, we can speculate. Sure. So here we are once again at Comic Book News. Amazon Jacob Studio had fired over James Bond in Rings of Power. Really? James Bond has only just begun, but if she were in charge of James Bond, this more than likely would have happened. Hey, Galadriel, how's it going? Yeah, not so great. Thursday afternoon brought the big news that Jennifer Salke, head of Amazon MGM Studios, has stepped down after 7 pretty stinky years, you know. I mean, there's a few things in here she could probably say, yeah, I did that, you know. But anyway, while it's been claimed it was her decision and that she will be moving on to producing, it's actually said that Amazon fired her, more than likely, reportedly due to the recent James Bond deal and even the failure of the Rings of Power. Yeah, before James Bond even gets started. So this is, if it's true that all the buzz they're hearing behind the scenes, that's the deal, that we got to protect James Bond, then that is a good sign. But the failure of the Rings of Power, that is a massive loss. The money they put into that thing, and it's just blatantly obvious. They did the exact wrong thing with the property, and it should have been kicked out a long time ago, you know? And I'm never going to... She's the reason why there wasn't a Conan the Barbarian series. They almost had it. You know, and the whole thing about Bezos, he just thought, hey, I know, I want my own Game of Thrones series. And this was at the time when Game of Thrones was, you know, the creme de la creme, the be-all and end-all before it, you know, fizzled and faded away and all that. But nevertheless, that's what he was pursuing. He says, I know, I'll buy the Lord of the Rings and all that sort of thing. Spent an enormous amount of money just to have the title and, you know, the names and whatnot. and all of that. But then you have Salke in charge of it. Whereas the Conan the Barbarian series would have been their own thing and left alone and allowed to actually be Conan the Barbarian, you would have had your answer to Game of Thrones. In that, but she passed on it and scrapped it because it was too masculine. So you get the deal, and so I just missed a great opportunity there. And but they got Rings of Power, yeah. So the idea that they just settled the deal with James Bond, and they're like, yeah, no, we don't want Jennifer having anything to do with that. So bye, Jennifer, bye. But then they got Amy Pascal there, but no. But let's continue to read the story. Apparently, Christopher Nolan might also have something to do with the decision. That's interesting, yeah. Oh, yeah, and Conan the Barbarian, I agree with Andre Henry. Also, could have been a good candidate to play the role. Maybe he'll get a shot at James Bond, and hopefully it'll be James Bond. I mean, it looks like he's already playing the character, right? That's from Man from U.N.C.L.E. movie, which I do recommend. It bombed, but unfortunately so, because it's actually a really cool movie. I'll check it out. Anyway, Amazon recently purchased the entire rights to James Bond, with announced Amy Pascal and David Heyman will be running things. According to Deadline, that's what sealed Jennifer Salke's fate. Coming from more of a TV background, she reportedly clashed with Pascal. Meow, meow, meow. And Heyman and longtime Bond producer Barbara Broccoli. Under Salke's leadership, Amazon developed the Rings of Power, the Wheel of Flop, the Wheel of Time, Flop, Reacher. Well, Reacher, yeah, you know, that, Jack Ryan, that did. I didn't see Jack Ryan, but Reacher I did. I still haven't caught up on this third season. I doubt that she spent too much time paying attention to it, because the positive for Reacher anyway is stuff like Rings of Power came along, and that had to have taken up all of her attention, you know, because it's so massive. And so these other shows, and I'm sure Jack Ryan, the same thing, and The Boys, Although the boys, I still haven't finished, the latest season there because, man, did that take a deep turn into stupid. But nevertheless, when one of these, I don't know, activists or whatever, get distracted and they don't pay attention to it, some of these properties get a chance to breathe. And I suspect that's what happened. So, but she was in charge at the time, so she takes credit for successful shows. But the success of Reacher had nothing to do with her, I would guess. According to the site's sources, Jennifer Salke wasn't involved in the talks surrounding the James Bond deal, which reportedly cost another $1 billion on top of the previous deal worth $8.5 billion. Well, Bezos does have the spare change, but this time he doesn't want it to be flushed down the toilet. That's what happened with Lord of the Rings. This time he's wanting James Bond to actually work. Hey, you learned, huh? You did. Amy Pascal and David Heyman are said to have negotiated with former Warner Brothers film executive Courtney Valenti, who had been working under Salke. Salke's role won't be replaced, as Valenti will now report directly to Amazon MGM Studios head Mike Hopkins. Oh, so it was a different office for her? Because I just thought she was the head. Okay, well, I guess his position was this. Is a two-headed beast? Is that what it was? I don't know, but anyway, her office will cease to exist. So, she's the one that Pascal and Heyman will deal with, and ultimately her boss will be Mike Hopkins. So it's claimed that as a condition of signing on to oversee the James Bond franchise at Amazon, that Pascal and Heyman requested that they report to Valenti and not Salke. So they liked Courtney. They didn't like Jennifer. No. It's also said that Barbara Broccoli didn't get along with Jennifer Salke. A recent Wall Street Journal report claimed Broccoli called Amazon fucking idiots. Well, yeah. But perhaps I was going to say that's kind of a side issue, isn't it? But maybe it was all Salke's ideas that was getting in the way. But they said she wasn't involved in the negotiations over Bond. So, wasn't involved in the talk. So, I don't know. But her people were saying, oh, it's got to be this. It's got to be that. I don't know. Anyway, reportedly, when Amazon owner Jeff Bezos heard what Broccoli said, he ordered James Bond to be acquired at any cost and wanted Broccoli out. So, there you go. Reports claim that under Jennifer Salke, Amazon wanted to take the James Bond she would be in charge if she still had her job, but it said she wasn't in the talks, so they kept her out. But still, Valenti reported to her, so, yeah. She probably said, guys, that's what Jennifer wants. I'm sorry. Maybe it was like that, Amazon wanted to take the James Bond franchise in a new direction. With a female lead. So Jane Bond. And spin-offs featuring diverse characters in a Marvel-style cinematic universe. So Bond-verse. 007 verse. I don't know. Rumors say Jeff Bezos pushed back. That's good. Sending a company-wide memo stating that James Bond will remain British and male. But that doesn't mean he'll be white, of course. But even more concerning, it doesn't mean he'll be straight. So still worrying about that. If he's learned anything about dumping his money down the toilet, that if you buy a property, you're going to want to keep that property being the property it was, So there's all kind of approaches to Bond they could do. They could, maintain it as in current times and that sort of thing. Or they could make it a period piece, which was Bond in its prime, do a new adaptation of the actual novels in full force. You know, certainly the original films were adaptations of those novels, but not in total, not completely. And so that's an opportunity for that sort of thing. Could do that. But I don't. I mean, the Bond universe thing. Theoretically, you could see it's possible. You know, I don't. Do you really want a Q? A television series? What would it be? A sitcom? You know, the story of him being doing the power play behind the scenes in the British government and stuff like that. You kind of get a House of Cards type thing going there. Maybe that could work. Some of the other characters that you meet in Bond stories could still be around. Felix Leitner, that's an obvious one. You could do a whole, you know, an American series basically of that guy. Stuff like that. But really, a bit much of it becomes saturation of the product. Bond has always been Bond, you know, and it was a film series. I don't know that I really want to see a James Bond TV series. I mean, it's, again, theoretically possible. They've done it with the other similar characters and whatnot, but they just make the movies, you know. That's the main thing. The Rings of Power is also cited as a factor. Of course, how could it not be? Good Lord, what a colossal failure that is. It's the most expensive collapse and failure ever, you know. As the most expensive TV show in history, it's been reported that the series has lost a substantial portion of its viewership. Deadline says the high-priced Lord of the Rings of Power, weren't game-changing enough to cover off an executive who spent a lot of money with not enough results. Yeah, see, that's the problem. It's an entity that only bleeds money. It doesn't make it. Christopher Nolan might also be a major reason behind Salke's exit. Deadline notes that the controversy over not giving Roadhouse a theatrical release may have contributed to her dismissal, with director Doug Liman publicly voicing his frustration. It's worth noting that Nolan left Warner Brothers after they released their entire 2020 slate simultaneously in theaters and on streaming. He's now reportedly a contender. He could have been a contender to direct Amazon's new James Bond film. Oh, that would be cool. That would be really you know, his films are always interesting. Some are stronger than others, but they're always cool. You know, I still say Memento's his best film, but he's done a lot of great stuff. That would be an interesting thing to see his take on James Bond. And there again, I don't know. Do you do it a period piece, or do you fit him in current times? It's kind of this weird thing because, you know, Bond still survived after the Cold War era with some fun films and whatnot. But at the same time, it's what exactly is the position of British intelligence and that kind of thing, and how, you know, even though Bond's a fantasy, it's, if you're going to put it in a certain era and time, you have to acknowledge it on some level. So I don't know, but period piece might be the better way to go. But you know, it's ultimately their call. But Nolan is quite the heavy hitter. And if he's interested in doing Bond, then that might just blow the whole thing out, and it'll be a huge success. One can hope. And I do.